idea and don't think it can't and won't, because it will. So how do we adapt to that change? That is a diagram of a building with no air conditioning system. So it's not using oil or coal or other sources of energy that might be dirty. And by the way, the marginal rate of our energy here is quite dirty. It's based on coal-fired plants that we're buying often from Alberta, although our general energy rate is low on GHGs. That is in Manitoba. They have colder winters and hotter summers than us here, and they can do it without air conditioning, so why can't we? You can retrofit buildings to deal with this, and a lot of these solutions are passive. They don't absorb energy on the way through, so once you put them in, that's it. Capital cost gone, now you're onto operating savings. There is a net beneficial business case to this. So in terms of what you're looking at, as Gordon correctly said there, and he's much better at it than I am, more water, more heat, less heat, flood, sea rise, storms, wind, fire, snow, and probably biblical pestilence. All of the above. And by the way, if you think your water is going to be dependent on the North Shore, less snow in the North Shore, less snow cap, how's your water doing? Are you recycling your water? So a few years ago, it got me sufficiently riled up that the wrong things were being said that I led an international initiative comparing buildings in 3 countries and looking at the actual value of this. It's called green value, and we found there is a relationship. And the good news is, not only is there a relationship, but it's positive. The buildings themselves, if they go green, they can have increased productivity, improved risk marketability, and a whole bunch of other things. You can all read, I'm assuming, so you can probably read that. I'll drill down to a bottom line example though. I interviewed one person in one of these buildings who'd moved his company in from a traditional building into one of these green buildings, and he had a 30% rise in productivity. He couldn't believe it, so he got it independently assessed, and he had a 30% increase in productivity. So there's another study in the UK on hospitals where they moved people out of unsustainable circumstances into sustainable circumstances, and they had a 21% reduction in the average length of stay in the hospital. So, as business people, let me translate this for you, just in case it wasn't completely obvious. Do you want a 21% reduction in your costs? Do you want 21% more profit? Do you want 21% more productivity and throughput? Or 30% if you're in, actually, Victoria, in that example. These are very real savings. So you can do it to save the world, you can do it to save the universe, or you can do it to save money, save energy, or make your building more resilient, or your business more resilient. But under all of these definitions, what we're actually talking about is something very profitable. I'll repeat that. We're talking about something that's profitable. Green is profitable. Lots and lots. I can just carry on talking for the whole afternoon. I've got a ton of slides, we can pull them out and we can go through them. I know very few instances where, if you do it right, it's not profitable. It's mostly profitable. So here's a couple, right? Pennsylvania Power and Light, Power Savings converted their building. Traditional savings, 24% return on investment, about a 4.1 year payback. They unscrewed some old light fittings and screwed in some new ones. Great. So the engineers, sorry, there aren't any engineers in the room. They usually end up not liking me. The engineers unscrewed the traditional light bulb, screwed in the new one, and calculated the cost saving. I'm not an engineer, I'm a land economist. I look at it differently. Okay, so what is the benefit and the throughput for that business? Okay, well it turns out that they improved their productivity so much that they repaid it in 69 days, a 540% return on investment. Okay, that's because the business had a massive improvement in productivity. They could actually see what they're doing as opposed to not. I suspect that's what went on. Reno Post Office upgrade, annual energy savings, a free bonus. People tend to think of these benefits in terms of cost savings, but it's not about the cost savings, it's about the value. You don't buy a car because it costs less, although that may be part of the equation. It's largely because of the quality, what you get it for and what you can do with it. Same here, Hyde Tools, $1 in savings, $10 in improved sales. So you have to think beyond the cost savings. This is not about transactional calculations. And the ITP League Gold benefits, the Vancouver Island Technology Park was budgeted on a traditional development when the the crunch hit and he had to hit a budget, he went green to save money. It's actually a cost-saving exercise that worked, got the first league gold in Canada, first lead in Canada. Air conditioning. This is one of my behemoths that I keep thumping the tub about because it's a big one in terms of the general energy budget. Only 5% of water in an office building is used for drinking water. 95% is non-potable consumption. So if we want to reduce our water consumption, because we're going to get more floods, more pestilence, but less drinking water, then you probably get rid of your air conditioning system and put in a wind tower, which, by the way, is what a lot of people are doing. That building from Manitoba Hydro, that is exactly what they're doing. They're using combinations of thermal mass and wind towers and intelligent ventilation in order to provide the same level of comfort in the building that they would have done otherwise. Right? So those are green roofs. What do? They increase insulation, they increase transpiration, evapotranspiration. They have a number of other benefits. Well, what they do is that they reduce your costs. And somebody on a panel in Toronto alongside me said, I have a 21-foot thick green roof. It has not needed replacement for 30 years, and I don't know of a traditional roof that's ever done it. So that's what it is, Montreal Biosphere, payback 0.4 of a year, and I thought I'd wrap up with something which at least one member of this audience is very familiar with. This is not about transactional change, this is about transformative change. This is step change, as a lot of people call it. This is traditional sewage. So, yeah, and water. There's our reservoir, there's our home, we treat it, we pipe it, it goes into the house. We either have a shower, it has 2 seconds in the air, goes down the plug hole, and suddenly an engineer calls it waste. It's waste. So now it's got to go into another pipe, it goes to the sewage plant, and we put it out to sea. It had 2 seconds in mid-air of actual purpose and daylight. We heated it, we stored it, we do all of that stuff. That's a resource. Let's look at that differently. Can we look at this differently? A reservoir, maybe we can shrink the size of the reservoir if we treat differently what goes on with sequencing the household consumption and capturing the resources that come off it through biotreatment and generation plants using biodiesel. Because we're recycling the water, we use wastewater to irrigate and so on. We can pull out the heating and gas and so on, and that can power the home and so on. Graham was on a small team that looked at this. I suggested that this was the first way of a new way of doing business rather than building the last of the great dinosaurs. The difference to my mark calculation is about $1.7 billion. Better than the traditional way of doing business. It's profitable as opposed to not. So we're talking about a real transformational change if you're going to do adaptation. It isn't just step change, I'm going to paint the house green. You have to do more. And guess what? There is a benefit to it. So we'll get some questions later.